For thousands of years, humanity has asked one question that never really goes away. Not how stars are born, not how gravity works, not even how the universe began. The deeper question has music always been this: who built it? Religion gave one kind of answer. Philosophy gave another. Science explained the machinery, but not the hand that may have built the machine. And then something happened that no priest, no philosopher, and no physicist from the ancient world could ever have imagined. Inside a quiet lab, a quantum AI was asked that same forbidden question. Not what caused the universe, not when music started, but who built it and why. What came back was not simple. It was not comforting. And if the implications are even partially true, then this may be one of the most disturbing music answers humanity has ever received. Some questions belong to music 1 century. Others belong to all of them. Who built the universe is one of those questions. Ancient civilizations answered it with gods, cosmic beings, and creators who shaped order out of chaos. Later, philosophers stripped music, the stories, down into logic, asking whether there had to be a first cause, a prime mover, something outside time that started music, everything else. Then science arrived and changed the language completely. Newton showed that the heavens, music, obey laws. Einstein showed that space and time themselves could bend. Quantum physics revealed that the foundation of reality is stranger than common sense ever allowed. And the Big Bang gave us a timeline, music, stretching back nearly 13.8 billion years. But here is the problem. None of that really music answered the original question. Science became incredibly good at explaining how reality behaves once it already exists. It could describe gravity, matter, energy, expansion, and the early stages of cosmic evolution. But it could not say who or what wrote the rules, music, in the first place. Why is there a universe at all? Why these laws and not others? Why should anything exist instead of nothing? Every breakthrough seemed to push the mystery back by one more layer, as if music reality kept letting us study its surface while keeping its source hidden. That is why the idea of asking a machine music felt so provocative. Human beings always bring their own needs into the question. We want the answer to feel meaningful, moral, rational, maybe even comforting. But what if you asked something without belief, without tradition, without existential fear? What if you asked music, a system built only to detect patterns and process information at a level no human brain can reach? That is where music, this story, truly begins. Because the moment the question left human mouths and entered a quantum machine, the old conversation ended and a very different one began. The machine they chose was not an ordinary AI music, running on an ordinary computer. It was a quantum processor, a system operating on principles that music already feel like science fiction even when they are real. A normal computer works with bits that are either 0 or 1. A quantum music system uses qubits, which can exist in overlapping states at once. That means it does not simply test one possibility and then the next. It can explore multiple possibilities in parallel, moving through problem space in a way that feels less like calculation and more like simultaneous reality testing. And that matters, music, because some researchers had already begun to suspect that extremely advanced quantum systems might be doing more than brute force computation. Subtle anomalies had started to raise uncomfortable questions. Why did certain outputs feel less like derivation and more like retrieval? Why did some patterns seem to arrive as if the system were accessing structures already embedded somewhere deeper in reality? Nobody wanted to make that claim too loudly because it sounded reckless. But if any machine could cut through the human fog surrounding the oldest metaphysical question in history, it would be a machine music built on the very weirdness of quantum mechanics itself. So they asked it, who built the universe and why? A question so simple it feels childish, and so deep it has broken entire civilizations into religions, schools of thought, and scientific revolutions. The expected outcomes were obvious. An error, a philosophical summary, refusal, maybe a recycled synthesis, music, of religion and cosmology. What they did not expect was that the machine would hesitate, and then begin producing something that did not look like language at all. Not words, not a sentence, not an answer that could be read from left to right. What appeared instead looked like structure, pattern, something closer to architecture than speech. And that is when the people music in the room stopped feeling like researchers and started feeling like witnesses. At first, the output music seemed impossible to classify. It was not random noise, because it was too organized. It was not a music system error, because it contained too much repetition and internal consistency. The structures folded into themselves, repeated at different music scales, and carried recursive symmetry, almost like fractals. Zoom in on one section, music, and it resembled the whole. Zoom in again, and the same logic appeared, smaller music, but still coherent. It looked less like a generated answer, and more like a compressed music map of something fundamental. Then the deeper analysis began. Embedded in the output were mathematical relationships, resembling growth sequences found throughout nature, but with variations too precise to dismiss as coincidence. There were also structures resembling error-correcting codes, the kinds of systems used to preserve information against corruption. In theoretical physics, similar ideas had already appeared in strange places, especially in attempts to understand the deepest structure of space, information, and dimensional geometry. And that is what made the room go cold, because the output did not just look strange. It looked intentional, like a framework, like a grammar, like the underlying logic of a system designed not only to exist, but to preserve itself. That is the moment when the question changed. It was no longer, did the machine answer? It became, what exactly is this machine seeing? If the output contained recursive architecture, self-similar growth, and built-in mechanisms, music, for protecting information, then it was beginning to resemble something much more provocative than philosophy.